Welcome to Super Simple Security Principles. I'm Nick Jackson and I want to love computers, but they don't love me back. I'm learning how to stay safe from my good buddy, Master Guardian. I choked on that one. Master Guardian, Makani Mason. Woo! Let's go. He wrote his first computer program at the age of 6. It sealed his fate. Really, like he's a computer geek. Nothing shy of that. He knows his stuff, so trust me, he spends his time now teaching people like me and you how to stay safe ahead of the digital threats and those bad guys. The best part is, he keeps it simple and we love it. Learn along with me each week. I'll ask the questions and make sure he keeps it simple and relevant. And guess what? If I can do it, you can do it. Here we go. This is episode 72, Website Exploration Safety. There are so many websites now, especially shopping websites. I have 2 amazing daughters, and I don't know how they do it, but they consistently find new websites. Like, shopping websites. They can send them to me. Hey, Dad, check this cool shirt out. I'm like, where have you even heard of this? Anyways, I then start asking myself, do I even dare put in a credit card information into this website? You know, and I've never heard of them. They're a brand new clothing line. Like, what do I know about them? And so, yeah. So when I read through today's episodes, I was super excited. So without further ado, let's jump into our opening questions. So here's the questions we're going to be answering in today's episode. What bad stuff can happen when you are browsing a new shopping website? Uh-oh, we get to hear about the bad first. How has browser safety changed over the years? What are 4 rules to stay safe while browsing the web? Hi, man. I'm excited. So excited that I even jumped ship and talked in between a question.
You're good. No worries. Yeah. Well, so it's been a little while. We skipped in part 1, which was episode 72 episodes ago. We kind of kicked off our little series here about our security stack for shopping, right?
Right.
And so the first part of this is even like a sub-series within this series, but anyway, is talking about kind of a checklist, a website safety checklist. And in that episode, we talked, our first item was, is this website less than a year old?
Right.
Now, that was the first one on the list because it's a question that we can answer without ever even visiting the website, right?
Right.
So that's nice. That means there's no chance of, going to a malicious website because we're not actually visiting it. However, from this point forward on this website checklist, it gets a little trickier because all the rest, basically everything else, you actually have to go to the website and start exploring, right?
Okay.
So before we actually get to items, 2 and 3, which I don't know how far we'll go, but the next couple items, what I actually want to do is take a break from that list and talk about some general website exploration things, because it's going to be relevant for the rest of the items on the list, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Total sense.
So now our focus, of course, is going to be on exploring a shopping website, right? But most of what we'll talk about applies anytime you're visiting a new website.
Okay.
With a couple of caveats. If if you're looking to do illegal stuff, even mildly, like pirating movies or software, you're on your own, you're digging your own grave. I make no promises about any of that. Or if you're doing something that's not, necessarily like, if you're clicking on a link that somebody send you an email or a text message, those are also higher risk link clicks, right?
Right.
So the premise here is that, you're searched for a link, or your daughter sent you one that she searched for or whatever, and we're going to call those at least lower risk.
Okay.
Search results do have bad websites in them sometimes, but overall they're far lower risk than those other cases. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Okay. So, yeah, and we've talked a little bit about link clicking safety in general, and we'll probably talk about that more in the future. But for now, or for today's episode, we're going to be focusing on the post click and the safety,
Okay.
like once you're actually on the website, exploring it, and what that looks like.
Okay.
And here's the good news: browsing the web has gotten a lot safer over the years.
Excellent.
Because for a long time it was very common that even visiting a web page could easily get you into a lot of trouble. Similar, like we've talked about with email, just like it used to be with opening an email, which again today is a ton safer, because these are two activities that everybody does all the time: opening an email, visiting a web page, right?
Right.
And so it's crazy to have those things in and of themselves be dangerous. So the safety isn't perfect, but it's good enough that most of the time I don't stress visiting a new website. And as long as you'll follow especially rule number 1, but these 4 rules that we're going to go over, my assertion is that you can have pretty low stress about this as well.
Okay. Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So rule number 1 is keep your browser updated.
Okay. Okay. We've kind of learned in the past what that does and how that helps. But can
Yeah,
you
that's what
elaborate a little bit?
well, I was going to ask you, right? First, actually, I want to check in with you, right? Based on what you've learned so far, how would you characterize why that's important?
Okay. So ask the whole question so our listeners could hear my answer.
Why is keeping your browser updated so important to your online security?
And my answer is that usually when they have updates, they've had added fixes to some of the security flaws that there were in the programs.
That's exactly right. Yep. That's exactly right. And so, but let me elaborate a little bit more, okay?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
please.
this is the most important rule by far for like general browsing safety. Because so here's the combination of things that can come together to make it when you click on it and go visit a website when it's not safe, right? Because I wasn't willing to say it's 100% safe, and here's the combination of things that have to happen for it to you end up being in trouble. So
Okay.
the first is to have a bug in the browser that can be exploited, right?
Right.
That's the first piece. The second piece is you have to end up going to visit a website that's built to exploit that bug to take advantage of you,
Gotcha.
right? Does that make sense?
Makes sense. So
So,
they've got to get you elsewhere.
well, right. So, I mean, say there's a bug, Amazon.com is not going to take advantage of it, to hack their users, right?
Right.
But a malicious website would.
Yeah.
And then the third piece is that either the makers of the browser don't know about the bug yet, okay, which does happen, but usually they'll find out very quickly, and so they'll fix it. And so your browser still is vulnerable to that bug. The bug is not fixed in your browser yet. That's the third piece. Either because the browser maker doesn't know about it yet because the bad guys got to it first,
Yeah.
or the browser makers have produced the bug fix, but you haven't updated your browser to get that bug fix.
That makes sense. And that's probably the more likely cause, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, I mean, so what happens is there is always a bit of time when, I mean, there's a case anyway. They're called 0-day bugs. If you hear like news reports where they're talking about that, 0 days are bugs that the bad guys find out before the makers do. Okay,
Okay.
so this
Okay.
happens regularly, and so it's kind of an arms race, right? The bad guys are always looking for 0 days, like they're the
Right.
they're the
They
best
want to find
weapon
the
ever.
weakness.
Yeah. And so, but what will happen sometimes is they'll hang on to it and try to, set up an attack where they can take advantage of the most people at the same time,
Okay.
and then sometimes it gets discovered, but sometimes it stays hidden, but then how long of a window do they have before people figure it out and it gets reported and it gets fixed?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that can happen. So, but the thing is, the longer that period goes on, the more likely you are to run into that problem.
Okay.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
That
Because
makes sense.
there's if you don't update your browser for 6 months, then there might be a whole bunch of these, you know, 0 days. I mean, they're no longer 0 days because the browser maker has fixed them, but there's still holes if you haven't gotten the latest version.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yep.
The chances are still pretty small because, again, these bugs are pretty rare these days, and you got to visit a website that is going to try to exploit you.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the number one thing. If you're going to have a problem just by visiting a website alone, it's going to be because you haven't updated your browser, most likely.
Okay. Okay.
So, now most browsers do try to automatically update by default, especially on mobile. They're very easily always happens. Sometimes that updating breaks on desktop, depending on what you do. But anyway, if it's ever telling you it's out of date, don't ignore it.
Okay. Okay. Don't ignore that road sign.
Yeah,
If it tells you it's
exactly.
out of date, get it up to date.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for referencing. Yep, exactly. That's one of those signs you don't want to ignore. The other note on this actually is if your computer is too old, you may not be able to keep your browser updated.
Because
So,
they just don't offer updates for older.
yeah, and there comes a point like I have a laptop from 2012, for example, and I cannot update to the latest certain. There's certain software I can't update to the latest on.
Yeah.
So, it takes a while and it'll tell you and whatever generally. But like for example, if you use Windows and you're running anything earlier than Windows 10, like Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8. Now, I mean, these are old at this point, but
Right.
and so for most people, I'm guessing who are listening, like at home, I doubt it's an issue. But businesses, governments, hospitals, educational institutions, they tend to hang on to the past a lot longer. So, that can be an issue.
That could be a problem.
So anyway, if there's any question about like if you're wondering, is my box too old or whatever, is my browser updated? There's I can help you anyway. Come to the website, come to the forum, which Ken pointed out I should probably be listing the URL when we call out those invites.
Right.
McCannyMason.com, MAKANIMASON.com.
I like it.
So yeah. Okay, so ready for rule number 2?
Let's hear it.
This is also one of those read the signs where you want to pay attention. So do not give the website permissions.
Okay.
Okay. Now, most people are very familiar with this when it comes to apps because apps
Right.
all the time are having asked for extra permission for specific things, right?
Right.
Websites do those sometimes too, and there's more of those these days than ever, but you just don't see it nearly as often as with apps. But one of the more common ones that I've seen anyway is if they ask permission to send you notifications,
Yeah.
right? Like if you get a new email, for example, that sort of thing. And my suggestion is to never say yes to this. I mean, obviously, if you really trust the website, you can, but yeah. Certainly never with a website you don't know well and trust.
Okay.
So, and if you want to hear why, to go back and listen to last week's episode.
Chems.
Exactly. Yeah. we talked about that. That was kind of a fun one. So,
Yeah, it was.
but as we mentioned there, and again, this concept of reading the signs, you know, you got to pay attention so that that it's asking you that.
Yeah.
And this is, reading the signs. It's one of the most fundamental security habits that will serve you well in so many ways. So,
Awesome. I like that.
yeah. And even if you decide to trust a website, just still think about the permissions it needs, because sometimes they ask for weird permissions.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Hey,
rule
I
number
was going to
3.
say, are we ready for 3?
Yeah. Do not download or install anything. Not until at least a website, again, has earned your trust, right?
Okay.
Because obviously we download and install stuff, but you want to you want to trust them first. So,
Yeah.
pretty simple. We probably hear that kind of advice a lot. Um, but I will add this too: like, if you do accidentally download something, don't panic, because the real risk is actually then if you open it. And
Okay.
this is another thing that has changed and still is in a lot of people's mind, especially older folks I run into a lot. Like, because in the old days, not only was browsing in general less safe, but browser downloads were less safe, because they were trying to
Mm.
be helpful and would like speed things up and would automatically open up things that you downloaded for you. I don't know if you remember that, but anyway, they don't automatically open them anymore.
Okay.
And so, so say you download something, you're like, oh, and you realize, nope, I shouldn't have downloaded that. That's bad. Don't, don't panic. Just don't open it. Um, but if it is one that you thought was, suspicious, and you're like, I'm not going to ever open that, take a moment, delete it so you don't forget, and like, what was that? And
Yeah.
and open it up later, right?
Right.
Unintentionally.
That makes. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Not
following your logic here. Like you're painting pretty clear picture of what not to do. I like it.
good. Yeah. I mean, it's not super complex. There's just a few basic things you need to avoid.
Yeah.
And actually, on this one, I'll mention specifically browser extensions. And we've talked about these, I think, in an episode or two. Um, and I mention them specifically because they are super risky. And they're like super quick and easy. You don't even have to go out of the browser to do it. So it might not actually really feel like you're downloading, installing something, whatever. The website will pop up. Hey, do you want to add this extension? You just click yes, and it's anyway. Don't do browser extensions, just almost at all. I mean,
Okay.
we could talk more about that. I mean, like, I do use some. Like, I use the 1Password browser extension, for example,
Yeah.
right? Because 1Password is a company I know well, I trust completely. Like, I mean, as much as I trust any third party anyway, for sure. And so I know their browser extension is not going to be malicious.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, I guess. Well, actually, I'm gonna add one other thing with browser extensions is, even if they come from a safe company,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if we did this episode, but I'm going to, is there is a lot of pressure if a browser extension is free and gets a big audience. They get a lot of offers to be purchased, because then the bad guys can purchase that, put in their bad stuff, and take advantage of all the people that trusted this because it was free and good for so long. They get
Oh
acquired.
goodness.
Yeah. So it's not even a matter of like, so you've got to be sure. That's why it's even higher. Like with 1Password, I know they're never going to sell their extension to some person.
Right.
But there are
Right.
a lot of really cool browser extensions that are done by just one independent guy sitting in his, bedroom,
Cubicle.
somewhere, right, bedroom or basement, whatever, right? Seriously, I mean, there are a lot of just hobbyists that produce some awesome stuff, and then they get pitched this, $100,000 or whatever. I don't even know the amounts. And it's like, sure, why not?
Right.
Right?
Ah.
Anyway, so
Okay.
yeah.
So is there one more rule? Have we reached the last
Yeah.
rule?
Yeah, no, there is one more. I just the browser extension thing gets me riled up a little bit because it's just so such a weird phenomenon to me.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So
yeah,
unless you really know and trust it, don't add a browser extension. Sum it up
yep,
that way.
yeah. So number 4, and again, like all of these, really is this rule is only applicable until the website's earned your trust.
Yeah.
But do not enter any personal information.
Okay.
Now, I put this as last too because this is the softest of the rules. Mostly, I leave it to you to decide what information you're comfortable sharing at what point. But
Yeah.
like the most common case, right up front is asking you for your email address, especially with shopping websites, right?
Right.
Because
Oh,
like they pop up
absolutely.
and they want to give you a coupon off your first order or whatever, right?
Yep. All
Which
the
I mean,
time.
yeah, and honestly, if I'm intending to shop there, I do it all the time. I give them because I give out a unique email address, like we've talked about before, for every
Right.
website anyway. So I can email the blogger. So I give that out, without a second thought. No big deal. They can do crap with my email, my virtual email address anyway. So,
Yeah.
but the main thing here is just to be intentional about it. Recognize that you know have they earned my trust yet? Have I gone through the list of things that my safe website checklist, or have I shopped with them before, that sort of thing anyway. And yeah, be careful about how much you share with them.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty simple one.
Okay. So don't share too much information too soon.
Yeah. Yep. And I know it's kind of a common sense one, but yeah, anyway, I
It's
figured it
worth
was worth.
repeating because every now and then we forget. You know,
Yeah.
if we remembered all of this all the time, we wouldn't see these flaws happening and these exploitations happening.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that's all the questions we have answered. Yep.
We got them.
Yep.
Do we get to tease them about the next episode?
Gotta give them a call to action first, though.
Ooh, it has been a minute. How did I forget the call to action?
Yeah, no, it's been a little while. Yeah. So that's okay. So for this one, just make sure that you are using a modern, updated browser.
Okay.
And I wanted to find a really simple website that I trusted that you could just go check because there are places you can check, but they're all full of ads and stuff. And this is another one where probably need to build a tool for, you know. So that's kind of on the list eventually, but I'm not even willing to announce that yet because that's in the pipeline, whatever. But for now, if there's any question in your mind about this, I'll just offer this. Come to the forum. Again, makanimason.com, makanimason.com, and I will help you be sure that you are using a modern browser.
Awesome. So
So,
call to action, use a modern browser. If you need help, hit us up at makanimason.com.
yep, modern and updated. Actually, I forgot. I don't know if I said that.
Modern and
The
updated. Yes, you
the
said those
the
two. I may have
okay,
skipped the.
okay, good, because yeah, they're both important. So
Awesome. Okay, so for next week, what we're going to do is we're going to continue on with this, but we're going to add a little something to it. We're going to add an item number 2 to the website checklist. And believe it or not, one phrase, Trustpilot. One
Yep.
word. That was a good episode. I liked it. You ready?
Ready.
Yay.
Are you ready to take action and wondering where to start? Get my Bulletproof My Identity Starter Kit for free. The 7 most vital layers of protection everyone needs. I'll send you one step at a time and help you if you get stuck. Just go to bulletproofmyid.com and enter your name and email, and I will send you the first step. Again, that's bulletproofmyid.com.